Hello, everyone. I'm James Twyman, and welcome back to the Shift Network's Mystic Summit. As always, we are going to have an amazing sharing here. And I'm very excited about this one because it's going to be going in a different direction than many of our other interviews here for the Mystic Summit. We're going to be welcoming Banafsheh Sayed. Did I say that properly?
You did.
Oh, good. I've been practicing. I'm so excited to have you because we're going to be talking about grounding your spirituality in your body. This is something that so many people often spiritual their way around, how to actually use the body as a tool for transformation. And I think this is going to be a very, very important subject for anyone wanting to dive deeper into the mystical traditions and their own experience. So wonderful. It is so great to have you here.
Thank you, James. It's wonderful to be here. I look forward to talking with you.
I'm looking forward to it as well. Why don't we just begin by you giving us an idea of your work? I know that you're originally from Iran, and this has been this way of grounding your prayers, grounding spirituality into the body has been something that you've been working with for a very long time. So why don't you begin as if no one has any idea what this background is? Give us an idea of how this all started and where you are with it now.
Sure. So I've always been interested in dancing. I've always, loved to dance, whether it was just dancing by myself or with friends in front of family, or just, just by myself. I've always loved that since I was this big. And at the same time, I've always been curious and interested in finding more about what is the mystery, what is the mystery of life about. I had a deep sense that of the divine from a very young age. And over time, these two interests of mine, that these two passions of mine, one for learning more about the divine and the other being dance, merged together. So I began to dance my communion. Dance became my communion with the divine, and that is my work. Dance. I perform it and I teach it. But the journey wasn't easy. Having come from a culture that doesn't respect dance as a high art form that it is, as a sacred form that it is, it was very challenging for me to announce that that is what I wanted to do and dedicate myself to it. But these challenges also really helped me hone in on what the form is about. So Dance of Oneness, the form that I perform and teach, is really this way of communing with the divine and also overcoming the challenges that we face in living in the world, and dancing through them, basically.
You mentioned that dance is not something that is stressed in the Iranian culture. I know that dance in many other areas of the Islamic world is a very essential part. Why is it that it's not as essential or as common in the Iranian culture?
Well, let's go back to what you just said. Actually, in Islam, dance is considered haram. It's something that takes you away from the direct path to Allah. Dance and music are both considered haram, considered things that can lead to sin. So it's not just in Iran that that is believed in. It's all across the Islamic world, but there are countries, there are cultures that are more, let's say, allowing. They're more allowing of different ways of being amongst their citizenry, and that's just not the case in Iran. As we see today, as people are struggling, as we are struggling against this current regime, the Islamic Republic of Iran, dance is actually has become a central mode of civil disobedience. People, bravely dance on the streets to express their opposition, to express their dissent.
I'm so glad you brought about that clarification. I'm so familiar with the Sufi culture, and I assumed that that would be more prevalent, but it sounds like that is something that is true of some areas of Islam, but not most. And in fact, if you wouldn't mind, I would love to talk to you about the current situation in your home country with all of the uprising. And I'm so happy to hear that dance is a very important part of that protest. What can you tell us of your experience with what is happening there, or maybe your own experience of when you were living in Iran?
Yes, I do want to say something about what you just said about Sufi dance. So that is my background as well, and I have to say that Sufi ritual, especially dance and music, is not tolerated by Islam. They have to be very careful around that because, as I said, dance and music are considered sinful. They're haram. So, and even with the Sufis, they try to really sort of stress the fact that this is sacred and this is prayer, and that's not necessarily tolerated everywhere. For sure, in Iran, it is not. Now, going back to your other question about the situation, um, people for 44 years have been tolerating this government that has been oppressive. This government, as we hear more and more, does atrocious acts of really crimes against humanity, uh, gassing their own children in schools, girls in schools, and arresting anyone who expresses any form of dissent, arresting them, even killing some of them on the streets, in peaceful protests and in prisons. The conditions are appalling. Prisoners are tortured, they're raped, they're, not given their basic human needs. And aside from that, the families of prisoners, families of the people who've been executed are oppressed. The government tries to make their lives very, very difficult. So all around, when you look at everything that is happening in the country, all around, it's appalling. The condition of the environment, the condition of the land, the water, as well as human rights. All around, everything is tragic, really.
I've never thought of dance as protest before. I think it's an amazing, profound idea. And I don't, you've maybe seen the movie Footloose from the 80s. I think that's as close as any of us can get to that idea. But in such an extreme situation as you have in Iran, I can see how the freedom that dance allows, the movement of the body, uh, i- well, obviously to the regime is very threatening. But this is work you've been doing for a very long time. And what have you felt the results of your work? Um, Moving back to the people of Iran, do you have students in Iran that are taking this into the streets in some way?
Yes, actually, yes, yes. You know, um, when I started my work, dance had even a lower place than it has now amongst the people. And the reason is the influence of Islam. The Iranian culture itself is not against dance, but the influence of Islam that makes people think that this is sinful has just, shaped the way people view it. But since when I started my work, a lot has changed. Many other, not many, but few other dance artists, Iranian dance artists, as well as myself, we have sort of changed the way people view dance and introduce elements that help them see that it is very therapeutic, it's very healing, and it can be sacred, and it can be prayer-like, devotional. So all these facets that they had not considered dance to be, and I'm just very proud and very grateful that that has happened. And you see people on the streets expressing themselves with dance. And what's so beautiful about that is, as a form of protest. It's a form of protest that actually makes you feel good. You know, when you're protesting, you tend to get angry and you tend to maybe feel aggressiveness. But what happens with dance is that you're filling yourself with joy, right? And you're energizing yourself, and then using that as a form of protest. So that to me is just so beautiful, because they're not they're not sort of diminishing themselves as they're protesting. They're actually growing bigger and more energized, and also inspiring others.
You know, as an aside, you're reminding me of a moment in my life. Years ago, I was in Serbia. And though this is not dance, it is related. It was at a time when Milosevic was trying to tighten down power. Every day, tens of thousands of people would be on the street, and I was swept into these protests. But what they would do, very much as you were saying, it was not focused on anger. When they would finally arrive at the government building, there would be a huge line of riot police with the riot gear and their rifles, and the protesters would form a line, and each line would then walk up and they would touch the plexiglass shields and smile. And then they would walk away, and the next line would come. It was a kind of dance as each line moved forward. And weeks later, when things started to get bad and Milosevic asked ordered the soldiers to begin firing at the crowd, they couldn't do it because a connection had been made. Wouldn't you say that that is the whole point of this devotional aspect of dance? It brings us to that radiant inner self, and at that point, the violence that may have come otherwise would be unable to manifest. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It awakens in us what is similar between us. It awakens a oneness. It awakens the sense that we are experiencing life together. We're in this together. Because dance is very communal. It brings us into community. So yes.
Now, your background with Sufism, I would love to hear more about that, because clearly Sufism is a devotional path. It's about expressing oneself to the beloved. How does your dance, the dance of oneness, how does that, I don't want to use the word compare, but how does it merge with your own background in Sufism?
Well, Sufism is a big part of this dance. The way I present dance of oneness, the experience of it really works in three dimensions or three streams. One stream is the technique, the rigorous technique of dance and movement that I draw from my own background in flamenco, Persian dance, Tai Chi, and whirling, the Sufi dance of whirling. And also in this dimension, I really invite people to express their own creativity. The second dimension, the second stream, is wisdom teachings. And for the wisdom teachings, I draw from the Sufi path. I draw from the works of Rumi and Hafez and Attar and other Sufis, as well as the divine feminine tradition and Taoism. I feel that both the divine feminine tradition and Taoism are two of the mystical traditions that we have that really uh, don't don't separate our spirituality from our body. You know, you actually attain a state of wholeness, a state where your body and your spirit are aligned through the body. So because that is the case with these two traditions, I draw from them in our dance. And the third stream, the third dimension, is healing. I draw from Chinese medicine, which is also my background, as well, and the chakra system. And then also just embodying wisdom teachings through movement, through dance, is healing in itself. So to answer your question, the Sufi understanding of the human being and how it invites us to really live our life as an act of love, that it is the path of love, living love in the world. So it really influences and sort of guides the dance of oneness, this understanding.
I really like how you say that this is expressing spirituality through the body, not divorced from the body, but actually through the body. So why is it so important to ground our spirituality in the body, especially today?
Yeah, so James, uh, I feel that this idea of transcendence is very problematic because it sort of makes us escape the body, makes us go into a state where we are not honoring the body as the gift that it is, as the miracle that it is. And we are sort of creating a duality or emphasizing duality, saying that, okay, there's spirit and it is not in the body. It is somehow reachable through transcending the body. It's somehow accessible through transcendence. And thereby we're creating a duality, and this duality cannot be a good thing. As long as we are in a body, we are meant to uncover all the experiences that transcendence offers us through the body, so that we're not creating duality, so that we experience ourselves as one, and we live this oneness in the world. When as much as I have been always very inspired by Sufi teachings, one aspect of these teachings I never could agree with, even as a young teenager when I first discovered the path, and that's the idea that the body is the prison of the soul. I feel that that is very, very misguided. Our thinking is the prison of our soul, but not the body. Not the body. The body and the soul can actually be experienced as one.
You know, I've always thought of the body as the vehicle of the soul, that which we can use. And just like with my vehicle, I'm not going to abuse it. I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to give it what it needs so to be a very good vehicle. Does that come closer to relating what you're trying to say?
I wouldn't call it a vehicle because, again, it sounds like it's somehow not alive. You know, I find that the body is quite unlimited. We think it is limited, just like I was saying, a prison of the soul. But when science is showing us more and more that the body is actually unlimited. We cannot possibly know everything there is to know about the body. So that in itself shows us that it is truly way beyond what we think. And plus, physics has proven that everything that exists in our world is 99.99999% energy, and only a very small percentage, 0.00001% matter or solidity. So where does that leave us with the experience of what is this body actually, right?
You actually were leading right into the next question I wanted to ask, because you've talked about appreciation of the physical body as limitless. That we have to appreciate that in a deep, deep level. Is there anything else you'd like to say about that appreciation?
Well, part of that, when we do appreciate our body as truly unlimited and we sort of experience more of the energetic realms of our body, then we're also stepping into how we can heal ourselves, how that, the energy of healing that we need is truly within us, and we can tap into that once we realize that we are more energy than matter. But again, that I don't want that to sort of lead again to this desire for transcendence, because I feel like when the reason that transcendence is so emphasized and has been for so long, in different spiritual paths, is perhaps that because we don't, it's difficult to really navigate in physicality. It's messy. So how easy then to say, okay, let's just transcend this messiness. But is that really the answer? Is that really the solution?
You're convincing me that it is not, which
And
is
that it
great.
can be that it can be actually enjoyable, that actually these challenges, not that the challenges are enjoyable, being in the body can be enjoyable, even with all the restrictions that we may be feeling, even with the pains and the weaknesses that we all have in one way or another. But the invitation of, can you actually experience your soul through your body, what you were saying earlier? Can you experience how you're more energy than matter? And how when you do experience that, then it's a whole different experience of being alive. It's less dualistic.
The point of the Mystics Summit is for people to realize that we can all access the mystic within. And yet, so prevalent in the spiritual or new age or new thought system is that transcendence, to spiritual one's way around what we really need, even if it's difficult, even if it's traumatic, even if it's the result of grief or trauma. And so I really like what you're saying, that we have to go into it, and dance obviously is a very important part. So I'm wondering, the dance of oneness, is this something that anyone can do at any stage of life, or does one need to have some dance background to benefit from that?
Well, it meets you wherever you're at, you know. So, in the dance, the people who come to the dance are have different types of backgrounds. Some of them are, have been dancing for years and years. Some of them are dance teachers, yoga teachers, different movements, somatics practitioners, and also people who don't have professional dance background, but really desire to experience their soul through their body. They really the I say the requirement is that you want to ground your soul in your body. That's really the sort of the prerequisite, this desire, this longing. And then because I share, guided movement, but also invite people to express their own movement, it really meets you where you're at. The form really, the whole program meets you at where you're at.
You mentioned two of my favorite words, longing and desire, how important they are in the mystic path. We have to open our hearts completely. We have to desire that experience of oneness. Me primarily would be through music, through chanting, through you dancing. Can you talk to us about any of the other ways that you have found that people can access and amplify that desire and that longing for the beloved, or however we want to express the divine?
Yeah, I mean that. I feel like there are ways there are as many ways as there are human beings, right? There's so many ways, and each way has to do with what that person's sort of uh, interests are, right? The beloved calls to us exactly as we are, and the response, our call back or our response is unique to each and every one of us. And you said yours is music. Dance is music. We express with our body. We express the music with our body. I love how Rumi says, let your body become an instrument playing a love song. So the relationship of dance and music is so intimate, but longing, like you say, is so central to the path, to our experience. Everything all of the movement that I do, all of the dance that I do started from longing desiring to be able to move in the way that I do. And then I was just led that way. And primarily the longing, like you were saying, is for that union, for the oneness, to experience the union with the beloved, experience the oneness through the body, through what has actually been the the mechanism that has created the separation, right? Because I'm this body, you're this body, and then there are all these bodies, other people's bodies, and then just bodies of different beings. And we feel so separate, right? But how to, when you step into the dance, into any practice that you have, that with the desire to come into oneness, then all of that just sort of starts to dance together. And the whirling, for example, the Sufi whirling is one practice that puts us in that experience of oneness in the body.
Yes, it's the experience of oneness. Dance, music, whatever leads us into that experience. My own background is as a Franciscan, so as exampled by Saint Francis, being an instrument of peace. In fact, you may know that there are some legends about Saint Francis meeting Shams or even Rumi himself, and what he may have learned when he traveled through the Islamic world during the Crusades, meeting with the Sultan of Syria and many others, Sufi masters like Eldin El Farisi, and he brought many of these things that he learned from his Sufi teachers back to the West, and he kind of disguised them, uh, gave them a little bit of a twist so people wouldn't necessarily know that they were inspired by Islamic traditions. Have you heard any of those legends yourself?
I have not, but but when you read the works of Saint Francis, it's so similar. You know, there's so many parallels. But I do want to say, since you keep emphasizing the Islamic part, I do want to say that the Sufi path is older than Islam, that it actually draws from the Mithraic, the Zoroastrian, and also from Christianity, it draws from uh, the Kabbalah, and even way before all of that, it actually, for me anyway, goes back to the goddess tradition. And you can see that the traces of the goddess tradition, because so many of the practices open the receptive, the feminine qualities. They emphasize the feminine receptive qualities, like listening, like remembrance, the adoration of beauty, so many of them, and dance and music also being a big central part of the path, just like they had been in the goddess traditions, the divine feminine traditions. So Islam, the Sufi path does take from Islam as well, but it is older. The influences are much older.
That's important to know. Thank you for sharing that. I'm wondering if there are any simple ways that you can suggest that we can center ourselves in peace through dancing.
Well, I would just say, just in general, centering ourselves in the body, uh, centering ourselves in ourselves, and grounding in peace. Um, Not necessarily just through dancing, but through remembering to sense the ground with our feet when we walk, when we stand, when we sit, to make that connection. The more we're able to direct and energy downward to sense the ground, to sense the earth as a living entity, as our mother, the more we start to feel peace, the more we begin to fill ourselves with peace. What happens is when your energy is always focused up here in the head, not only are you not using the whole volume of your body, a kind of a bigger um, portion, let's say, of yourself in your daily life, you're also have more tendency to get anxious, to get overwhelmed because you're just kind of functioning here, and you're sort of cutting yourself off from experiencing the totality that you are, and to awaken more sensations than just thinking. Of course, we eat and we taste and we smell and we have sight and all of that, but our thinking tends to really run the show. And when we direct our energy down and sense the ground with our feet and remember to do that and sort of communicate with the earth through our stepping, I think that already grounds us more and centers us more in ourselves and in peace.
Other than the Sufi poets like Rumi, Hafiz, who are some of the other mystics from any tradition that have been meaningful to you in your own life?
Many. Rabia, for example, well, she's another Sufi. She has been very influential. Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, so many. I would say, and Gurdjieff, the mystic from the Caucasus. Many, many, many.
How about the programs that you're offering today? Uh, how has COVID influenced that? And do you find that you're able now to work with people in groups, in person, rather than? I'm curious how you did that during COVID.
Yeah, I mean, before COVID, everything was in person. I actually didn't have any programs online, but the moment that all of my in-person events got canceled, I had to transfer everything online because we needed to have that connection with one another. And I felt how people were getting very easily overwhelmed and anxious and worried. So it became a very important task for me to continue and to present my dance online so that people could still continue dancing and finding the peace and grounding themselves, centering themselves, opening their heart through the movement. And from moving online, that just started a whole journey of being able to work with people from all over the world. Previously people would come to in-person workshops from all over the world, but of course, travel and other things that were challenging and they couldn't attend everything. But when I switched to presenting online, people could join from all over the world, and we would come together and dance, and that has continued with my courses on Shift and the courses that I do elsewhere and on my own platform. There's a lot of online courses. Now I have to return to in person as well. Everything has been so much online. I have to make that transition back to in person and just, do a hybrid presentation of online and in person.
Let's talk about community for a moment. We're here in Mexico at Namaste Village, which is a beautiful spiritual community, very interfaith, very non-dual, and yet I don't know if we integrate dance into our experience here enough. We do have all sorts of different opportunities, but I'm looking at some of the people who are with us and they're not in their head. Yes, we should do that more. Just hearing this with you, I think, is going to inspire us. But community in general, do you find that this is a very important time for us to be joining together, whether it be online or whether it be in person, to be building community so that we can face any of the additional traumas that are ahead of us?
Oh, absolutely. You said it. I totally agree. Community, coming in community with like-hearted people, like-minded people really, really helps us survive and thrive, right? I mean, there's so much turbulence around us and turbulence in our personal lives as well. And when we have that community, that feeling of community of people that share the same um, feelings and ideas as us, we actually, you know, thrive, and we get to be the best of who we are. It's really together that we, each and every one of us, can really touch into and step into our true selves. It's not a solo project, I don't feel. There needs to be a balance between, you know, that contemplation that we do alone, and then coming together and the sharing. Especially you see that, you know, in the whirling, for example, the whole idea of it is that you become a channel for the blessings of the divine, the blessings of the beloved in the world. So you receive the blessings and then you transmit them. So you find yourself in between this receiving and transmitting of blessings, the of the light of love. And I feel that when we are in that space of receiving and giving, receiving love and giving love, that we are truly happiest.
Well, we would love to have you here one day at Namaste Village in Mexico. I think we would benefit so much from your wisdom. And I'm also wondering, what sort of programs do you have now that people can access, and how can they be in touch with you?
I would love to come to the Namaste Village in Mexico. That sounds amazing. People can go to my website, danceofoneness.org, to see the different programs that I'm offering at the moment. There's some video courses, and there are some in-person events and some live online events, various offerings.
Well, this has been just a delightful opportunity for me, and I know for everyone. And I just want to check in to see if there's anything still on your heart that you would like to share with us.
I feel so full with our conversation, and I want to thank you for this opportunity. And the only thing I would say to everyone is to really honor this miraculous body of yours and explore um, the different facets of being in your body. And remember, everything that you're experiencing, even the transcendence, is through this body. It's through this body. So honor it, love it, and may you be truly happy.
Mhm. Banafsheh, thank you so much. This has been just a delight. I feel lifted. I think I may go do a little dance myself just to ground this energy even deeper. Thank you so much for being part of our Mystics Summit. And I want to thank all of you who are watching. As you know, this has been a tremendous opportunity for us to deepen our own mystical path. And I hope you're getting all the benefit that I am. So until our next program, have a beautiful day, and let's go out and dance together.